What an amazing time it is to be in the print industry. But it's also a moment that's asking all of us to really have us rethink how we look at value for our partners. So let me start with a recent story that I think will help put this shift into perspective. See, at the beginning of this year, a Fortune 500 company in the US reduced their print spend. It was a $10 million print spend. They reduced it by nearly 40%. But here's the really interesting part about that story. It wasn't that print wasn't working for them, it's that nobody could show that it was. And see, this company is one of the largest building supply companies in the US, and like so many other companies that are tied to the US housing market, the past few years was really tough for that market. So naturally, leaders in that business started tightening their budgets. And while the CMO of that company was trying to really struggle to defend their print spend, it was also discovered that almost 30% of their inventory merchandise was also found to be outdated and was in the process of being written off. So yeah, that $10 million print budget became a very easy thing for their finance committee to cut. And again, it wasn't because print was failing, it's because it was invisible. Nobody could show what got used, no one could show what drove results, and ultimately no one could defend it with real world data. And that's what makes that story so important, is that versions of it are happening across so many other industries right now. And that's a signal that all of us in print are typically misreading, because most people believe digital marketing is one of the biggest impacts to print, but it's not. The biggest threat is actually friction. See, the result, that building supply company I was just talking about, they didn't have a print problem, they had a workflow problem. Like most companies, they had systems, but those systems, they didn't talk to each other. You had ordering happening in one place, you had inventory living somewhere else, and then you had brand assets that were being managed in an entirely different tool. And none of it was connected in a way that drove results. Nobody in that finance committee, they could not show what that spend was actually producing for them. And that's the reality in most large enterprises today. It's not a lack of systems. It's a lack of connected systems. And that disconnect, it's what really is what programs are becoming invisible. It's where they become indefensible, and ultimately where they become expendable. And to be clear, this isn't because the print industry is failing. It's because the systems around print have changed faster than the systems that are supporting it. So friction, yeah, it caused that $10 million print budget to be cut nearly in half. And now that you all understand that, I'm hoping that everything else I talk about today will make a lot more sense. Because the customers sitting across from you, that are sitting across from me, the CMOs, the CFOs, the procurement and marketing leads, they're really not trying to spend less on print. They're not. They're just trying to stop wasting money on process they can't see, they can't control, and they can't defend. And that's the problem that we, collectively as an industry, need to help solve. Because up until recently, most customer conversations, they started with print questions. They'd ask, hey, what's your price, turnaround time, quality, and shipping and production capacity? But today and going forward in the digital era, the conversations that determine whether print stays in the budget is gonna start sounding completely different. They're gonna be asking, how does this connect to our marketing tools? And what's your workflow and automation look like? And oh, by the way, do you have an API and how can you connect with us? Because I think we would all agree that those aren't print questions, those are workflow questions. And if you're not answering them, someone else is. Canva is, Adobe is, and a dozen other venture-backed companies that none of us have ever heard of are raising money right now to sit specifically between you and your customers. So today, what my goal is for this keynote is to actually basically show and print at the rightful place at the center of the modern marketing supply chain. Because once we all understand that, three things are gonna happen. First, why demand is changing. Second, why print fulfillment networks and technology matter more than ever. And three, what the print industry needs to do to become indispensable to its clients. So let's look at this keynote as basically a realignment and also a moment of reflection. So let's get into it.